recording. All right, welcome everybody. As you can see on the screen, we're going to do this Netivot Shalom on the first pasuk of this week's Parsha Vayechi. There was a previous, as you can see, we're starting in Beit, so there was a previous marker from the Netivot Shalom on this, and this is going to continue where that left off. But basically, what this is going to talk about is the first sentence of this parsha. And the first sentence of this parsha is Vayechi Yaakov, Beretz Mitzrayim. Yaakov lived in the land of Egypt, Shiva Esrei Shana, 17 years. Vayehi Yemei Yaakov Shnei Chayav, and the days of Yaakov, the years of his life were Sheva Shanim Arba'ah Ve'ez Shana, 147 years. Now Rashi says, Vayechi Yaakov, he says, Lama Parsha Zu Stuma. So when you have different parshot in the Torah, when you finish one parsha and you go to another parsha, there's normally a gap, a space between them. In other words, you have a couple of lines of space from the end of one parsha to the beginning of the next parsha. With this parsha, Vayechi, it continues as if it were a part of the last parsha, Vayigash. So there's no space between it. So that is called a parsha stuma. So Rashi asks, why is this parsha stuma? And he says, Lefi shekivon sheniftar Yaakov Avinu, because when Yaakov, our father, died, nistamu einayim v'libam shel Yisrael, the eyes and hearts of Bnei Yisrael were closed, mitzoras hashibud, from the affliction of the bondage, shitchilu l'shabdam, which the Egyptians began to impose upon them. So that's the starting point for this year. And now we'll go to see what the Netivot Shalom says. And what the Netivot Shalom is going to point out is that A, Hashem is always with us in every kind of difficulty that we have. And B, that no matter what difficulty we're in, you should be able to see the good in that difficulty. And in the course of this little shir, there's going to be reference to two stories, one of Rabbi Akiva and one of Nachum Ish Gamzu. And when we get to those, I'll tell you a little bit about what those stories are, so you'll understand them. So let's look at the Netivot Shalom, starting right here. It's nice and big, right? You can see it well. Oh, Yesh Lomar. These Sefer HaKadosh told us, Yaakov Yosef, al pasuk zeh. He talks about this pasuk, this sentence that we just read. Shemedi b'shem Rambam dehine koach hapoel benifal. This is the power of God in those who are subject to God's power, which means v'chol tzarasom lo tzar. In all of our troubles, God is with us. Shegam b'chol inyonei tzar v'tzoros sheyeshnam la'olam. In every aspect of difficulty that is in the world, yesh nitzutz hakadosh baruch hu mimenu yisborach. You see the sparks of Hashem within these signs of difficult, within these difficult times. Hakadosh baruch hu tov, since God is good. Umadu miderach hatov lahetiv, and the way of good is to make good for others. Hari shebechol hatzoros temuna midas hachesed. We come to understand that in all of the troubles that we have, whether it's material, whether it's health-wise, physical, emotional, whatever the troubles are, we should know that we're not alone, but that Tamuna Midas HaChesed, within these troubles is hidden the quality of kindness of Hashem. Galot HaChesed He, and when is this Chesed, this kindness, revealed? Kash Yehudi nosen libo lekach, when a Jew takes it to heart, shebechol sorosav lo tsar, that in every difficulty, Hashem is there with us. Oz, bimele, and then if you do that, if you recognize that God is with you in all your difficulties, hashibud, this difficulty, Shomam Gam Kodem B'chayei Yaakov, Kvar HaYetzurah, we know that before the life of Yaakov there was difficulty. Elisha Oz, Vayechi Yaakov, but now these last 17 years he's in Mitzrayim. Vayechi Yaakov, Yaakov is alive. He's living the life of Yaakov. Adas, Vatechi Ruach Yaakov Avihem. When Yaakov received the news that Yosef was still alive, he thought up until that point, he felt that the Shekhinah had abandoned him. And when he heard that Yosef was still alive, the pasuk says, "Vatechi Ruach Yaakov," his spirit revived. He once again had the Shekhinah in front of him. Yaakov Holi Mali Ruach Chaim B'chol Davar. He had the spirit of life in everything. Holi Makabel B'yos B'simcha. He received everything that happened to him with simcha. Ishbiya B'chlal Yisrael Chayos B'simcha. And he wanted the whole Klal Yisrael, the whole people of Israel, to live in joy. So because of his ability to live in joy, he wasn't feeling the difficulties. What a message that is for us today. We have all kinds of difficulties, and if we can face this difficulty with simcha, with joy, recognizing God's internal chesed and everything that we see, even though we don't understand why, it'll make it much easier to get through it. Barak Shemesh Yaakov, only when Yaakov died, Nistamu Eineihem V'Libam Shel Yisrael, the eyes and hearts of Klal Yisrael were closed. The Bnei Hatzoros, the difficulty closed the eyes, and we can see that. Just look around you at the world. You look at the people that are depressed in the world because of all that's happening, whether it's the physical, whether it's financial, emotional, they're depressed. I dare say that a lot of people aren't looking at this with simcha. And the Netivot Shalom is telling us that that's something we need to do. And this is what it means. It says Yaakov lived in Eretz Mitzrayim 17 years, and that 17, Shiva Esrei, Minyan Tov. The gematria of Shiva Esrei is Tet Vav Beit, which is Tov, good. The gematria of 17 is good. Hainu shasharish b'chlal Yisrael esakara de komad avid rachman l'tavavi. Because Yaakov is leaving us a message that kol mad avid rachmana, everything that God does to us, you have to recognize l'tav avi. This is done for good. Yesh lo ma'od, and we also say, and by the way, that saying kol mad avid rachmana l'tav avi, that's that came from Rabbi Akiva. I'm not sure if it originated with him, but he certainly said it. I'm going to talk about the story that happened to him where he repeated that. We can also say, if a Jew receives the whatever God dishes out to him, he receives it, and he can live with it, and he can be happy with it. then if he is happy with it, God will be happy with him. Mida keneged mida, measure for measure. We know that we've heard this concept many, many times, that God deals with us measure for measure. Makabalas is an hagat hapratit echshu, and to receive whatever specific things are happening to us as they are. Zero perish Vechi Yaakov Eretz Mitzrayim Shavas Rishana. This is what it means that Yaakov lived in Mitzrayim 17 years. Yaakov Hayim Mitzrayim, he was in Egypt. What was Egypt? Shehi Mitzar Haaretz. It was the Mitzar is a lashon of contraction. It's like somebody's choking you, closing in on you. Makora Toma. It was a narrow space, a space of a place of uncleanliness. But he was there 17 years, as in the number Tov. I knew what that means is Shekibel es Hanhagot Hashem Yisborach Imo, that he received whatever Hashem wanted to do to him. Actually, whatever it was, Shahakol Tov, recognizing that everything was good. By this, Yaakov Avinu gave advice to all Bnei Israel. How to withstand the exile of Egypt. And not only exile of Egypt, as we know that the Torah is not about telling stories. The Torah tells us lessons that we can apply today. So in our own particular exile, whether it's the national exile or individual galus, he gives us a message as to how to strengthen and get through it. Isa b'sifrei HaKodesh, as it says in the holy books, Sheyiridas Yaakov Mitzrayim. Why did Yaakov go to Mitzrayim? Why was Yaakov going to Egypt? It was to prepare the way. It was to prepare the way for the people of Israel, Shelo Yishku Batubas Mitzrayim, so they wouldn't be totally swallowed up by the impurity of Mitzrayim. Yaakov Eitzazu Lezichochem. Yaakov gave them this advice to be able to cleanse themselves and keep themselves pure despite the surroundings they were in. Hakol shel Kabbalas Hanhaga Habore Shekol Mad Ovid Rachman Latav Avin. The power of receiving everything that God does for you with the recognition that everything that God does, he does for your good. Yehudi, this purifies a Jew, and it brings him to a level of holiness in everything he's doing. As it says in Torah Zavos, this even helps with those things that tshuva doesn't help for them. The power Yehudi Makabel that a Jew receives, Shekol Mad Ovid Rachmana Latav Ovid. The Jew will receive and recognize this statement and that understand that whatever Hashem does is for your good. Ozer LaYehudi L'chol HaMatzavi. This recognition, this acceptance will help the Jewish people in every particular difficulty they have. V'hinei Harav HaKodesh B'Chorkatov, Zachir Omar, he said, Lama Parsha Zustoma. Why is this Parsha closed? Why is there no space between Vayigash and Vayechi? Because Shekivan Shnifta Yaakov, when Yaakov died, Nistamu Einaim Libam Shli Yisrael B'Beit Soras Hashibud. As Rashi said, because when Yaakov died, the eyes and hearts of Israel were closed because of the suffering of the slavery they were put under. Kasher Yehudim Ovrim Tzoros V'Shibud. When a Jew goes through difficulties and slavery, and his eyes are closed, his eyes and hearts are closed. Harigam Torah, Nia Parshas Tuma. Also in the Torah is closed to him. Adas Ramar Kosev, Imo Nochi B'Tzorah. And Hashem says, I am with you in your tzoras, in your difficulty. Shal Yehudi Ladas. A Jew has to know, Ki Ba'esh Shetzar Lo, at the time that things are difficult for him, as I gam lamala kiviyachol nia parshas tuma. If it's difficult for him, he doesn't see the simcha in it, and we know that there's a mirror of everything that happens in this world going up to heaven. So if he's not besimcha here, they're not going to be besimcha up there for him as well. Does that come in your Shabbos Kodesh, Yom Simchaska? This is the aspect of Shabbos, the day of your great simcha, your great joy. Sheikar hamitzvah, he oneg, the main aspect of keeping Shabbos is the oneg Shabbos, the pleasure of Shabbos, the simcha and the joy. Shemizeh gorim lamala simcha, where the joy and keeping the pleasure of Shabbos increases your joy, and you get to a higher level of joy on Shabbos. Somehow I gotta look at my book. So somehow I think I skipped something. Either I skipped it or it's not in here. What happened? Well, I don't know what happened. It looks like part of it did not come out, which doesn't make sense. Oh, I'm missing a whole paragraph. Here it is. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. I made the thing so big I couldn't see it. Here's the paragraph that we just skipped. Maybe Azeh, as former Chazal, we bring on this what Chazal said in Gemara Brachas. The Olam Yehei Adam Rogil Lomer, a person, a Jew should always say, Kol Mad Ovid Rachmana Latav Ovid. Everything that Hashem does is for our good. Jihad the Rabbi Akiva, Hava Ozil Ba'orcha. Rabbi Akiva was traveling on the way, and he came to a city, and he was looking for lodging, and he went to the inn, and they had no room for him. They didn't have any room for him in the inn. Amar, okay, he says, no problem. Call David Rahman al-Latav. Everything that Hashem does is for the good. He went to go sleep in the forest under the stars. And he had with him three things: Tarnagola, a rooster, the chamora, a donkey, the sharga, and a lantern, a light. So what happened? Asa zika kabiyah sharga. A wind came, blew out the light. Asa shunra. A cat came, achla tarnagola, ate his rooster. Asa aryeh, a lion came, achle lechama, ate his donkey. Amrlo, so what does Rabbi Akiva say after all these things, seemingly horrible things happen? Call David Rahman al-Tam David. Okay, whatever Hashem does is for the good. Hey, Laila, Asagisa Shabiyalamasa. That night, an enemy troop came into the city and took everybody captive in that city. And Rabbi Akiva realized that the only reason he wasn't taken captive, he wasn't in that inn that he wanted to sleep in. And they didn't find out where he was because his lantern went out. His rooster couldn't make noise. His chamor couldn't make noise. So he was saved. Amar lahu, he says, Lo amri lahu. Didn't I tell you, Kol ma shakadosh baruch hu asa hakol latova? Didn't I tell you everything that Hashem does is for the good? Okay, Rashi says on that, Ilu haner dolek, if the light was still burning, so the troops would see it. If the donkey was braying, as a tarnagal, kori haya, so if the rooster was crowing, the troop would come in and reveal his presence. Therefore, he wasn't allowed to come into the city. And the donkey and the rooster were killed, and the light was put out. Shakol chesed rachamim. Chesed rachamim. All is kindness and mercy. Can you put yourself for a minute in that situation of Rabbi Akiva? Can you imagine all these things happening? Wow, here I am out in the dark in the forest, and now my light is blown out. And okay, at least I have I have a rooster and a dog, and now they're killed. Can you imagine how it? No, he didn't feel that. Called Ovid la Rachmana Tov Ovid. Whatever Hashem does, it's for my good. I call Chesed Rachmim. So he says, Od Bavor Barichut Inyan Maseh the Nachum Ish Gamzu. So they tell another story at length about Nachum Ish Gamzu. Hamuva B'Sechet Tanit. That happened in Masechet Tanit. So let me just tell you the story about Nachum Ish Gamzu. The people in his town wanted to send a present to the emperor, and they figured that the best person to take this present of jewels and valuable things is Nachum Ish Gamzu, because he's an honorable person. They know he can be trusted. So he stops on the way at an inn. This time they let him in. It wasn't Rabbi Akiva. They let him in the inn, and he spends the night there. And next morning he wakes up, and the chest that contained all of the jewels that was for the emperor, he opens it up, and guess what? It's filled with dirt. So Nachum Ish Gamzu says, I don't know what's going on. Gamzu Latova. He continues going to the emperor, gets to the emperor, puts the box in front of him and says, this is a present from our Jewish community. The emperor opens it, sees all this dirt. And he says, what? What kind of bazoyan is this? What kind of a disgrace are you doing to me? All these Jews should be killed. And one of his advisors say, wait a minute, maybe there's something magical about this. He reaches into the chest and pulls out a handful of dirt, throws it out in the air, and it becomes spears. He throws it out on the ground, and it becomes other kinds of weapons. And all of a sudden, they had all these weapons to defeat those around them. So he was, of course, very thankful. He, invalidated the decree, and again, Nachum Ish Gamzu Latova. So now he's done with the emperor. He's going back to the inn, and he has the chest with him. And they ask, what happened? Oh, I gave the chest of dirt to the king, to the emperor, and turned into arrows and spears, and he was very happy with it. So that night, all the people that were digging under the inn, they thought the ground was holy. It had some magical qualities. So they filled up a couple of boxes and went to the emperor, and they brought these to the emperor. Of course, it was just a couple of boxes full of dirt. Well, it has to be said, the emperor wasn't too happy with that. Uh, they were thinking that there was the magic. The magic was Hashem was doing Chesed Rachmi behind the scenes, as he always does. Let me just see. The Netivot Shalom goes to it a little bit, but sort of abbreviated. And so it says, it goes on here. I'm going to start over here in this part of the page. Uvezeh mavur. We have to understand. This makes us understand. Mamra Kosev, what David Amel said in Tillim. Shvisi Hashem lenegdi samid. You Hashem are. I stand before you, God, always. Many because I know you won't kick me away. You won't push me away. Shvisi Hashem. Perush means Reisi I see as Shem Havaya, the four-letter name of God, the name of which implies mercy, Yud Kei Vov Kei. Shem HaChesed V'Rachmim, the name of kindness, mercy. Afilu be'eis shehu b'bchinas lenegdi. Even when it seems that God is against me, I can still see Shvishi Hashem. That is Hashem that seems to be against me. Yud Kei Vov Kei. The quality of Hashem that is merciful, that is kind. Gam zeh Shvishi es Shem HaChesed. So I see before me the name of kindness. Kimi many bal emot. I know that Hashem won't push me away. Afilu b'shah, even at the time shedoma ki hu lenegdi b'chinas shemal, even when at the worst possible time, yodea ani shehu mimeni dehainu chesed b'chinas yamin. I know that this is chesed coming from the right hand of God. L'chein samach libi v'yagel kavodi fnei sheyodea ani shezeh mimeni. So therefore, I'm happy. Al pizer, Lavora as a pasuk. For this, we explained the pasuk. Viyachi Yaakov Eretz Mitzrayim Sheves Rishana. We explained that Yaakov lived 17 days. The Lechura V'yoter Amru Sheves Rishana. It seems like using extra words in the Torah. We know the Torah never uses extra words. Why did it have to say 17 years? You can do a little math. Shachrei Shenemar, after it says Shnei Chayav Kuf Mem Zayin, that his years of his life were 140 years. Shana, before that it says Riyadosu Hayab Ben Kuf Lamed. We know that when he came to Mitzrayim, he was 130. So you do the math. That's 17. 147 less 130. What do you need the Torah to tell us? Doesn't sound like it's wasting words. So Mamela, no, it's not wasting words. Yedinan Shehu Shoya Yudsayim Shana Mitzrayim lets us know that he had these 17 years in Mitzrayim. Muvor al pi damar, as we've said, the Shema Esrei hu minyan tov. 17 is the gematria of tov, of good. Ainu Yaakov Avinu, Gama Mitzrayim Lashem Eitzer, even Yaakov Avinu, when he's in Mitzrayim, in the language of Meitzar, of being squished in narrow space. Ainu Be'ez Tzora V'Tzuka, B'chinas Mina Meitzar Cross you, as the aspect of from the depths of Mitzrayim, I call to you. Gam b'zeh ro'as hatov. Even in these 17 years he was there, he could see there was difficulty, did appear to his difficulty. He saw the good. Shekal ma da'avid rachmana latav avi. Everything that Hashem does, he does for the good. Okay. Sorry, it was out of order a little bit, but it's okay. That's basically the shir. Kol mad avid rachmana latav avid. Everything Hashem does, you have to know is for the good, and Hashem is with us in our tzoras. And when it seems as we've just said, that Hashem is against you. No, He's not against you. The name Chesed and Rachmim of Hashem is with you. God is with us in everything we see, and all we have to do is recognize that and be sameach, be happy with whatever we have. As the Pirkei Avos say, Ezehu Asher, who is rich, Hasumeach bechelko, he who is happy with what God gives to him. And that's the message, and that's an important message, not only from this parsha, but for our very lives that we live in this difficult time. Accept it with simcha. Thank Hashem for it. Thank Hashem for the tzuras. It seems like a hard concept. But Hashem does not want to hear you complain. Hashem hears you complain, he'll say, oh, you're complaining. I can give you what to complain about. Be happy. Accept with gratefulness what Hashem gives you. Thank you for listening, and glad that we were able to share the screen properly. And I hope that this makes an impression on everybody's lives. And I will see you, God willing, next week. I'm going to stop the recording as soon as I can find it here.